Did I just make WordPress editing simple again? I've spent months working on a proposal for evolving and adapting the existing WordPress site editor so it's designed around what users want to do rather than how WordPress itself is built. In my previous video, I showed you a demo of what that vision could look like, but in the comments of that video, many of you asked me to turn this into a real working demo in WordPress. So that's exactly what I've done. In this video, I'm going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of what I've built, and at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how you can test this out with a one-click install and give your opinion on the future of WordPress. My name is Dave Smith, WordPress core team member and long-time contributor, and if you're ready, let's dive in to making WordPress simple again. So here we are in WP Admin, and if we go to Appearance, and if we go to Editor, we are dropped into the newly redesigned Site Editor. Now, the first thing I want to make clear is that this is no longer a simple demo. It is actually running on a real WordPress instance, and it's backed by real WordPress code. So that means that you will be able to try this out, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that at the end of the video. But for now, let's have a look at what we've built and why we've done it like we've done it. Another thing I should mention is that everything you see here, none of it is requiring new WordPress APIs or systems to be built. And it's also using all WordPress existing components and layouts. So again, this is really just remapping and evolving the current site editor. It's not throwing things out and starting over again. It is an evolution, not a revolution. So let's have a look at the key parts of this interface. So the first thing we think users want to do is orient themselves and get an idea of how their website currently looks and feels. And the best way to do that is to show a preview of their website. And that's what we've done right here within the site editor. And you can click about between the pages and everything is fully interactive, including the ability to sort of toggle your menus and everything like that. So you can really quickly get a sense of what does my site look and feel like? Now this one is very bare bones because this is a completely fresh WordPress install running the 2025 theme, but we're going to flesh it out as we go. I should also point out that at any point you can click this edit button, which always remains here, and you can drop into the editor immediately to start modifying that content. But this is a live preview of what your website looks like. Now, the second thing we think users want to do is find out, what does my front of my site look like? What does my homepage look like? And that is why we have this item here in the sidebar. Now, I believe WordPress does have a problem with the concept of a homepage, and I've talked about that in another video, which I will link down below in the comments. But essentially, what we are saying is that by default, WordPress should have a static homepage set as the front of your site. It should not be showing you latest posts by default, because that is something that's coming from WordPress's blogging heritage, and whilst that's fantastic, it probably doesn't align really well with what the majority of people are looking to use WordPress for today, which is to build websites. And traditionally, modern websites have a homepage which acts more like a gateway rather than something that's showcasing your latest blog posts. That being said, if you do wish to go to change what's showing on the front of your site, you can do that. And this is a really good demonstration how we are absorbing current WordPress APIs and thinking about backwards compatibility. Because if you do this, again, you can go back to showing your latest posts on the front of your site. And this website only has one, which is why we're only seeing one there, but it is possible to do that. And you can also configure it here. And if you then want to go back, you can find your home page and set it, and there we go. But the cool thing about this is that if you click here, you are always going to see and go back to what is currently set as your home page. And that's really important because in current WordPress, it can be difficult to find out what is currently showing as your home page of your site. So we're really trying to hone in and address that problem here. So let's take a look at the sidebar now. And you can immediately see we only have 4 simple choices here. And that's very intentional. A lot of the feedback we get from users and some of the data we have access here to Automatic indicates that users are just feeling overwhelmed with the amount of options in the menu and the choices that they have, and also some of the terminology used there. And the current editor does show you a lot of things that are very WordPress specific, such as templates, template parts, patterns, and these things really don't mean anything to users who are just trying to get on with basic site editing. So we've intentionally obfuscated those. They are available in this menu here, so you can still reach them, but they are intentionally one layer deeper just to mean that we can simplify the initial experience for most users, and that's very important. So we've already covered homepage here. We've also got content, navigation menus and design. And all of those are very user-facing terms that I think are understandable and comprehensible to most people. They're also quite likely to translate well into other languages, which is something that's quite important. So let's take a look now at pages. And to access pages, you go to content and you'll see a list of content types that are available on this website. And we're going to go with pages, and we click on pages. And what we see is a grid list showing previews of all our pages. And that's really helpful for orientating ourselves and understanding what kind of content we've got on a site and kind of how does it look. We always show the home page as the first item here, no matter how it's configured. And that again is to mean you've got an anchor point to get back to. You always know your home page will be the first item here. So at any point I can click into any of these and I'll be dropped into the editor to edit them. Alongside the actual pages themselves, we also show the templates that affect the layout of your pages, as in the outer skin of your pages. So what I'm talking about are things like if you had a page template with a sidebar, this would be appearing here. In 2025, which is the theme I'm using here, we only have 2 page-specific templates. So we only show those. Notice how we are not showing you the entire template hierarchy down to index.php. So you are not having to see the overwhelming screen with all the different types of templates in the template hierarchy just to edit the templates that control how your pages look. And we've got 2 template types here, and we'll take a look at those a little bit more in a second. So let's take a look at how we add pages. So if we click Add Page, we get a choice between starting from scratch and choosing from a pre-designed page. And this is the option we expect a lot of people to take, and it's down to the theme now to present good default options for pre-designed pages. So in 2025, we have a number of pre-designed full page layouts, and we're showing them here, and we get these nice, quite large previews. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that in these previews, we have the header showing, and if we scroll down, we can also see the footer as well. So the header and the footer. And why that's important is because when you're choosing a design for a page, you want to see how it looks in totality, not just how that individual content for the page would look. And so that's why we make sure the preview renders to the full template. And we can actually choose the template we want to apply. So here I've gone for the page with no title, and that's the one I think, by the way, WordPress should use by default for all future themes. This is now showing that new design template. We have the different types of template here. I'm not enormously happy with these options, but again, I'd like to reinforce that this is leaning into current WordPress APIs. I think perhaps WordPress could be looking at providing standardized types of category here, and themes can register designs within those categories. But that's something we can look at later. This is just really pulling through the data from the 2025 theme. So if you have a different theme, you might see different items shown in the sidebar here. So we're going to go for let's go for a link in bio. Let's go for that. And we'll go for this link in bio template here. So if I click on that, then we get to choose the name of our page. I'm going to go for my bio, and I'm going to create an edit. And we are dropped into the editor to edit our page. This is where I get to talk to you about a concept that I'm calling the universal canvas. And what do I mean by this? Well, if we look at our editor here, we can see we have the header showing, the page content showing, and the footer showing. And the elements that are part of the template, for example, this header and the footer, are visible immediately. That might seem obvious, but in current WordPress, you don't see the header and footer by default, which provides quite a confusing experience because you're landing on a page and you're only able to edit the page content, but it's kind of out of context from the design of your wider site, which can be quite confusing with people saying things like, where's my header gone? Where's my navigation menu? I want to see how this looks like on my site. Well, by showing these global elements by default, we make it a lot clearer. So that's what I mean by universal canvas. Editing, everything is available to view, but also everything is available to edit. And in this universal canvas, if you want to make an edit to your header, you are not blocked from doing so. nor do you have to go into a separate editor just focusing on that template part. Rather, you can edit it inline. Now, there has been some concern previously discussed with WordPress contributors, because there is an idea that people don't understand that when they're editing a header or footer, it's going to apply across lots of different pages on their website. So what we've done is we want to introduce affordances which make it very obvious that you're about to edit something that is a global element. So let's explore editing our header here. So let's say we want to edit the navigation. Well, the first click, no matter where you click, and let's do that again. Even if I click on the navigation, the first click simply selects the template part itself. And then if you can either click edit here, or you can click again, and that will then drop you into edit mode for that global element. Now you'll notice that the header has updated, the color has updated here, and it's clearly now we're editing something different. There is also a clear affordance that the other blocks on this canvas have been faded back, and we are very much spotlighting and focusing on this block. And all those things are designed to make you realize that this is something that's going to affect multiple pages. It's different, it's not in-page content. We could also look into showing a modal for the first time that the user undertakes this thing, which would say you're editing a global element, and that's something we could, of course, introduce as well. But this allows you to make changes, and when you're done, you can click back or click back here, and it will drop you back into the editor just as you were. And the same thing happens with the footer as well, or any other global elements. I would also like to draw your attention to the sidebar here, where you can quickly toggle between the different page templates that are available in your theme. Now, our two are quite basic. So we have the default layout here, which is the one with, I told you about before, it's got a page title and a featured image, but we also can quickly change to the one with no title and see how it looks with that one. Okay, this might not seem something that's so great, but imagine if your theme provides a template with maybe a sidebar. You might have a sidebar right or sidebar left template. You can quickly change how this page is applied. So if you want to show this page with a left sidebar, you could then click on that and it would show you how that looks. And that's actually quite powerful, and those of you with themes with those types of layout will appreciate this, I believe. Okay, so we spent quite a bit of time looking at pages, but what about the other types of content that are available on a WordPress website? Well, in other videos, I've explained how I think it's absolutely critical that all content on your WordPress site should be available to edit and manage within the site editor. So please do go and watch that video for some more context on this. But this prototype really brings that idea to life. And if we click under content, we can see we not only have pages, as we've already seen, but we also have posts and two other custom post types that I've registered just for demonstration purposes. Now, posts, if we click on them, this is just the standard WordPress blogging posts that if you were running your blog. And as you can see, we currently have one post, and I can very easily add a new post here, and I'll call it Dave's post, and I can save, and off it goes. Now you'll notice again, we're making use of the universal canvas here. So when we're writing our post, we also see the header. And don't forget that if we didn't want that experience, we wanted a more focus just on writing, we do have modes already available in the block editor to allow us to do this. So I really don't see that as a problem. Now we can see Dave's posts appeared in our list. So we've got the data here. And the other thing we need to concern ourselves with is how do these posts look on the front of our site? Because what WordPress does is it takes these posts, throws them through a template, and that generates pages dynamically on the front of your site, one for each post, if that makes sense, plus a listing. And these are actually available here in context alongside the post data itself and under the templates tab. If I click on that, then I see two currently active templates that govern how my blog posts are displayed. Now, these names, I will say now, are confusing. And again, this goes back to trying to align ourselves with current WordPress APIs, but I think that the name blog home and single posts is not very clear. It would be preferable if this was called post listing and single posts, which I think would be, single post, which would be clearer. But essentially blog home is the listing. And if I want to edit the way that looks, I can edit the template very easily there and change those. And if I want to edit the way a single blog post looks, I can edit the template for the single post and, change how the comments look or how the main article looks. And when I'm done, those update. Notice that we are not showing you the full template hierarchy here. That would be far too overwhelming. We do not want to show you this full screen where you've got to see all of these templates down to index.php. It's just too much. So what we are doing is just saying, look, these are the key templates, listing how these posts are listed, and single how one post looks that you really need to care about. And one day if you get more complex requirements, such as you need to change how a specific category looks or something, then you can start to learn more about the template hierarchy, but that's really a power user territory. So for most users, these will probably be the ones they end up looking at. Now, if we look at a custom post, this is a books custom post type and currently have no items in it. If we want to add one, we will load like this, and you'll notice this one looks a bit different. And this is really just a demonstration purposes, proof of concept, to show that if we wanted to, we could, for backwards compatibility reasons, show the WP admin post creation interface within the site editor. And why would we want to do that? Well, some plugins, we have a lot of plugins on WordPress, have registered like specific fields or custom fields or specific integrations on this WP admin version of the post creation interface. So we might need to retain those. So I just want to show that it's technically feasible to do that if we want to. So this could be sort of an option, maybe you toggle on for a particular post type or not. Or we could just go to the standard, just loading the block editor version of this. Again, we have templates available. So we have the books listing and book single. And if we want to customize these, it does explain that these are currently inactive. We do not have a custom template for using books. And if we go to edit, it provides some sensible guidance to prompt us to the correct action. It doesn't say you must understand the template hierarchy first. It just says if you want to customize how your listing of books looks, you're going to need to create a custom template, and this is how you do it. And then if you click there, your custom template for books would be created for you. And as you can see now, it becomes active, and I can edit how that looks specifically. So that's how content works within this interface. So next, let's take a look at navigation menus. And this is probably one of the areas of most frustration that users have with the site editor as it stands. It's quite difficult to manage your navigation on current WordPress. And hopefully this new demo shows an alternative vision for how we can improve upon that. So the first thing to point out is that with this prototype, a navigation menu is automatically created for you. So you are never at a point where you have no menu to start with. So you always have some basic starting point. And over here on the right hand side, we can see a list of locations where this menu is currently used. Now, at the moment, we see all the locations. I would love it if we could have APIs in WordPress that allow us to filter these by only the locations that are active. For example, on this site, most of the templates across this site, most of the pages are using this simple header here. They're not using header with large title or header vertical. There is no API available to me today that allows me to say, this is the active one here. If we had that, it would be a lot easier to reduce the complexity of this view. But for now, we need to show all the locations. So let's jump into editing a menu now. And the first thing you'll notice is that this over here, where we should expect to see the actual menu itself, actually says auto menu. So what is this auto menu? Well, it's actually a concept that exists in WordPress today, except you probably don't recognize it. Because what an auto menu is a menu that is simply showing all the pages on your website, and it's automatically kept in sync with those pages. So if I go to content and pages and then add a new page, that page will be automatically reflected in this menu. I don't have to manually add it to the menu. So that is why we're calling it an auto menu. And that already exists in WordPress, and it's powered by something we call the page list block. But that is quite a low-level concept. You don't need to understand what a page list block is, but unfortunately we force users to understand this in WordPress at the moment, and it causes a lot of confusion because you have to convert the page list block into a standard set of navigation link blocks to be able to sort of customize your menu. And it's really asking users to understand a lot of nitty-gritty implementation detail that, quite honestly, they don't really need to care about. So what we've done is obfuscate the underlying page list block. It's still there, but we're obfuscating it, and we're saying, hey, look, this is an auto menu, and we're explaining that it's automatically kept in sync with the pages on your site. We also show a preview of the pages below that, and they're sort of slightly greyed back with reduced opacity to denote that they aren't actually editable, and there's no inserter and you can't drag them. They're just inert pages preview. Now, if I want to customize this menu, it's pretty obvious that the button to click is customize. And when I do so, we see a modal appear and explains that if you do this, they're not going to be kept in sync anymore, but the benefit is kind of you can add whatever items you want. So when you go ahead and do that, you don't have to know anything about the fact that a page list block has just been converted into other block types. All you see is the menu that I previously had is now being converted into a list that looks a lot more editable. And I think that's a much clearer concept than what we have today. So now let's look at customizing the items we have in the menu. And whilst we do this, I want you to keep a close eye on the right-hand side here, where these previews should automatically update to reflect the changes we're making here. When we click on this item, we now see a drop down. Now this is different to current WordPress. Current WordPress, when you click on that plus there, what it will do is automatically insert a page link block that will link to a page, and you can choose the page. That's fine if you want to just insert pages. Where it falls down is anything outside that very limited use case. So for example, if you want to link to a post, or if you want to link to a website outside of your WordPress install, or you wanted to create a submenu, it's very, very difficult to do so. You have to understand a lot about the low-level blocks that power the navigation block, and it's just too confusing. And I say that as someone who's worked a lot on the navigation block, and I'm just not happy with it. So this is what I'm imagining as a new flow. You get three options by default, so as not to overwhelm the user. You either want to add an existing page, you want to add a custom link, which is linking to, I don't know, Google or WordPress.org or whatever, or you want to add a submenu. And of course, there is another option here, which hints there's more power behind the scenes. So let's take each in turn. Let's add an existing page, and this is a very familiar interface. You can search for an existing page, or you can click to add it. So let's link to sample page, and we see sample page added to our links in the preview as well. Let's add a custom link, and we're going to link to www.wordpress.org. And we do that, and we see that custom link added. Last but not least, let's create a submenu. So we're creating a submenu here. This is much harder to do in current WordPress, and this is a lot easier. So when you create your submenu, you ask, do you want the submenu item to link to an existing page? Do you want it to be a custom link, or do you want to just have it as a placeholder with just a label on its own? And this is new, so let's explore that now. So I can call this Dave submenu. Obviously, you'd give it whatever you want. You click add, and then you get this sort of placeholder box where you can add submenu items. So I can add existing pages here, like my biography. I can add sample page, etc., etc. And you can build out your submenu. And when you're done, if you click on another link, then you can start adding pages to the root again like that. So this is quite a powerful concept and a different flow for adding submenus. And this problem of adding submenus, it is quite a problem in current WordPress. So this aims to make that process a lot easier. Now, let's look at a flow which is quite powerful for when you create new menus. So let's go back out now, and we'll add a completely new menu, and we'll call this new menu. Now notice we have this option to auto sync this menu with site pages, but by default we expect if you're creating a new menu, you probably won't have full control over this by default. So we don't have that selected automatically, but you can opt into it if you wish. So let's create the menu now. So it's effectively creating a blank menu, and we can see that there are no items in this menu yet. So if you want to add items, you click on this button here. And what we get is like a bulk adding screen. And this bulk adding screen draws a lot of inspiration from the classic menu screen in WordPress. And this is something that users have been asking for a lot. They say a lot to me in my feedback on my other videos. Oh, the classic menu screen was much better at doing X, Y, and Z. And quite honestly, in some cases, like this case, when you're building out a menu from scratch, there are a lot of elements of that UI that are a lot better. So we've pulled across some of the ideas here, but we've just modernized it with current WordPress components and architecture. So if I want to build out my menu quite quickly, I can say, yep, I want to link to home, my bio, sample page, and the privacy policy. I click add to menu, and there we go. Our menu's automatically created for you. You can also, when you want to add new items, you can go to more, and you can bring up that screen again if you want to bulk add. And by default, we also show you the different content types. So here I've got posts. So if I want to add posts, I can add those. I can also add blocks. And the reason we have that is if you might want to add links to your social menu, or you might, for example, want to search for a button. You might want to add a button, which is like, I don't know, contact me or buy now or whatever in your navigation. You can do that here. But we don't overwhelm you with all the content types, but there are more here hidden behind this more option. For example, I want to link to categories or post type archives or even media or add a custom link. I can do that all here from this bulk creation interface, which makes building out a menu a lot faster than doing it individually via just creating these individual items. And the key here is that we've tried to really try to obfuscate the underlying complexity of the block system when it comes to navigation. So we hope this provides a much quicker way of building out your menus. Last thing about menus I want to draw your attention to is here in the locations area. If I want to update where these menus are used, I can go to this screen, I can uncheck those two, and I can say, hey, I also want to use this in my footer. And I can say update locations, and sure enough, now we see it's only used in the header and the footer, and I can actually filter to just show footers or just show headers or all locations like that. So this is trying to give you an overview of where it's used on your site. And last but not least, let's have a quick look at the design section. Now, this is an area that I think needs the most work for me. It's not an area I've been able to touch on heavily. I think it needs a lot more explanation. But if we go into the submenu, we've got two items, which is site identity, where you can change the title of your website. You can upload a logo and the icon, things like that. It's very akin to what happens in the customizer, where you can you have similar screens to fill those things out. It avoids you having to go into the low-level blocks to do it. So instead of having to go into the site title block or go into the logo block to upload your logo, you do it from an interface. And this already does exist in the site editor today, so it's not a radical departure there. Styles. This is currently the same as what we have in WordPress today. I would lean into showing this screen by default, a set of sensible defaults that you can change your site styles, but no huge radical departures there. The next thing I really want to show you is the idea of workspaces. Now, workspaces are a name that I've come up with to cover a concept which I think is really important, everyone understands. What we are doing here is we are simplifying the editor, or we're trying to, for users who are not familiar with the technical concepts of WordPress. However, we do recognize that, there are many people out there who do have a technical understanding of WordPress, or who are more advanced, and might find it a bit frustrating after a while to constantly have to jump into a second layer to get to the power that they need. To solve for this problem, we're advocating for providing these sort of workspaces out of the box. And it's very similar to sort of, if you've ever used Figma, it has sort of a designer and developer mode, but I think it's less black or white, less stark than that contrast, because what we imagine, there'll be several different workspaces that you can configure. But the theme developer workspace is the one I've added for the purposes of demo. So if we switch to the theme developer workspace now, and then we go back up to the top level and homepage, you'll see that the menu has changed itself to show a lot more items by default. So now we are seeing sort of WordPress concepts such as patterns and template parts. And that's intentional because we imagine if you are a theme developer, you're going to have more experience. You're not going to need to be sort of wrapped in cotton wool so much, and you just want to get to these things straight away. And that is probably seems like, oh wow, big deal, you've changed the sidebar. We see it going beyond that as well. So for example, under pages, if you were adding a new page and you were a theme developer, we probably wouldn't give you this modal choice. What we'd give you is just immediately when you say add page, we drop you into a page from scratch. Things like that, small micro adjustments that just make the workflow smoother for someone who's more advanced. Now, obviously this would require designing a whole system of APIs and everything to support this in the background, which don't exist today. But the concept is there that the WordPress site editor layout and the way it behaves could be adapted based on different configurations. Moreover, I would like to also show that you can fully customize the navigation as you see fit. So, for example, if you are in default mode like this, in default workspace, and you decide, actually, do you know what? I am pretty familiar with the idea of patterns and I want to be able to see that all the time. You can actually drag patterns up into the root menu here, and then you can click done, and then you will see that patterns is then available as a first class menu item all the time. So you can actually, not only do you get a workspace out of the box, you can also customize that based on your individual preferences. And this is quite a powerful concept, and one that we see catering for that concern that by making the interface too simple, it's going to alienate existing WordPress users who are more familiar with the system. I think WordPress is inherently a lot more flexible than that, and we can design systems that allow it to adapt itself based on user needs and requirements. So, what do you think? Did I make WordPress editing simple again? Well, the best way to answer that is for you to test out this prototype yourself. And as I promised at the beginning of the video, I'm about to show you exactly how you can do that, and it only takes a single click. So we're going to load up the Gutenberg Playground with this PR enabled now. And just first thing to be aware of is this may take some time. This is quite a complicated demo, has a lot of moving pieces, and WordPress Playground will take quite a while to download it. So what I suggest is you, when you clicked on the link, which I'm going to leave down below in the comments section, just give it 3 to 4 minutes to load up, and just go and do something else, make a coffee or whatever, and then it will load and you'll be ready to give it a test. And when you land in WordPress, you'll be in this area here, and you need to go to Settings, Gutenberg Experiments, and you should scroll down and enable Toolbar, Refresh, and Extensible Site Editor. And once those are enabled, then you must click on Dashboard, then click on Appearance and Editor. Make sure you do it in that order. Click on Dashboard first, then Appearance Editor, and you'll be landed into the demo that I've just shown you here. One thing to be aware of, this demo of WordPress is running entirely within your browser, so it does provide you with this extra sort of Chrome of this is part of WordPress Playground. This is not part of the demo here. If you click refresh on your browser, it will completely reload WordPress. So if there are any problems with the prototype itself, you need to click on this refresh here, which will just reload the playground. But essentially what you've got here is a demo site you can mess about with, you can do whatever you want with, and you can really test out this prototype exactly as I've shown you in the demo video thus far. So am I saying I've fixed WordPress? Absolutely not at all. What I'm asking for now is to start a conversation and to get feedback on how this feels for you. Do you think this interface is designed more about what users want to do rather than how WordPress is structured? And do you think that provides a better experience for the majority of users while still allowing those of us with experience of WordPress to access all the features we have today? I'm also really keen to hear what you think about the Workspaces feature, and if you'd like me to go into more detail about that, then please let me know in the comments and I'll happily provide a more detailed video about that. Now, talking about the comment section, if you check out the pinned comment down below, it's going to have access to everything you need, such as the demo link, the link to the PR that powers this demo, and links to previous videos where I've covered concepts that are related to the items I've talked about in the video. So please make sure you check out that pinned comment, and when you're done there, please make sure you leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought, whether it was good or bad. I'm open to hearing it, and it's going to be very interesting. Of course, if you like this video in any way and you like the exploration that I've showed you, please do hit that like button. And if you want to be kept up to date with developments in this area about how we're making the site editor simpler in WordPress, then you should definitely subscribe to the channel now because you'll be then the first to hear about any new videos that are coming out. That's it from me for this video. If you're looking to what to watch next, please check out the playlist and this recommended video, both of which will have more detail on the kind of explorations that we're doing around simplifying the site editor. But I will see you next time. Goodbye.